port, starting with Canaanites. When the Canaanites were here, this was a port, and it's called Dor. Dor in Hebrew means generation, so maybe that's why last generation. But you first time read it in the Bible, on the Dor, is in the book of Joshua. And when Joshua came to conquer the land, the king of Dor got together with other king trying to defend. And of course he failed, so Israelites conquered the area. And one thing they didn't do, they didn't fight the inhabitants, so the inhabitants were captured. This is the territory of the tribe of Manasseh. So Manasseh was part of it, and the western part. There's also half of the tribe of Manasseh on the other side of the Jordan River. And it was after Israelites were conquered, the port this was destroyed, then it was rebuilt by Phoenicians. After Phoenicians, Greeks came in, and they did their own thing, they rebuilt it. After Greeks, there were Romans. See, over there, if you look in that direction, that's a museum. And in a moment, I'll tell you about that building. The big building, 2-story, with a red roof. It's like, right now it is a museum, and every room is a different period. So the periods go all the way. So after Romans, we have Byzantines, we hear, and then Crusaders also came here. And finally, Napoleon army encamped here. Napoleon in 1798 he came and encamped here, and was after a big defeat. He had a really bad time here. His army was sick. Soldiers were dying. He was waiting for help to come, and nobody came, so he went down toward Egypt and got regrouped in Jaffa. But he, in the process, he lost about, they say 22 cannons he lost. And they found, from the sea, they found 2 cannons. They put it in the museum. The museum has a room of Napoleon. So over here they dive a lot, and they find different artifacts from different periods, from all the periods that they made. And the museum has rooms for Greeks, for Byzantines, for Napoleon, for Canaanites, and very interesting to see, because they were already in those days they were making beautiful things out of glass. Anyway, you walk here, you walk a generation, but this port is larger than one in Caesarea, except it's underground. They say it will take 500 years to really uncover everything that's underneath here. And then let me tell you about a little bit about the factory. When the first settlers began to come with Zichron Yaakov, and it was very hard. You know, I told you this is the area where the first people started to come back to the land, because it was so hard. They had no means for agriculture. There were swamps, malaria. 10% of people were dying a year from malaria, and they sent delegation to France, to Edmund Rothschild. Rothschild, the main Rothschild was Jacob. He had 5 sons. Edmund was the only one that was not a businessman. He was like a philanthropist, a collector of arts. And so they went to him, and he took an interest in the land. At that time was called Palestine. And so he sent a delegation, and he tried to see the ways he could support the area. And one of the ways he saw, because there was a lot of vineyards here, and he knew that people can make business out of wine. So he said, okay, one thing we could do is produce wine bottles, because there's sand here. to make glass out of the sand. So that building was built to be a factory for producing bottles. And the first manager of the factory was actually Dizengoff, who later began, you heard the Dizengoff Street in Tel Aviv. He later became the first mayor of Tel Aviv. But here he was trying to manage the factory, but what they didn't realize that the sand was not good because it was making dark glass, and nobody wanted to buy dark bottles. So eventually they started to import sand from Belgium, and they produced some better glass. And then there was a plague. What do you call that plague? You said it's
typhus? No.
Yeah,
no.
some kind of.
Daughter died from it.
Dizengoff's daughter died, and many people died from the plague, and so they had to close the factory. Dizengoff moved to Tel Aviv, became a mayor, and it stood empty until they rebuilt the factory.
Speak a little louder because of the noise.
Yeah, and they made a museum. If you go there, even around the factory, everything they find in the sea, they put over there. They see there's a lot inside. They see the divers go in. There are some ships still inside that from even Phoenician ships that sunk. This was very treacherous area with rocks. Ships were guarding at shipwreck. And this, what you see, is a port. And actually, the main part of the port was in this middle, not this section, but the next section is where the ships used to come and bring the goods. So anyway, this is you can study history just staying here from the beginning to
If you have a man like I
No, they had
when I got here, I knew nothing about it. So
they had major walls here that were so high and so thick that nobody could penetrate. No enemy could come. So they had literally an amazing fortress here, right here. And if you look at these walls, you see those bricks there. You wonder, how did they carry those bricks? I mean, this thing was humongous. It went all the way across here. And the bricks are so large, you wonder, they didn't have machinery like we have today. How did they move these bricks? If we walk down here, there's a really beautiful view over here, so we should take a walk just down this path right here. And you'll see that there's stones, round stones. They probably did milling, and they probably did crushing. So there's
Rafi and Tamar.
Okay, Rafi and Tamar are coming, yay!
So, you want to let them watch?
Yeah, if you come down here, it's amazing.
To see down. It's not too difficult to come down.
You can see the texture of the stone. It was man-made stone. So you think you're standing on a hill, but it was actually built by man. And then there's, you can see there's little carved out areas. All that was man-made. They probably had a room there. They probably had some kind, who knows what, maybe in part of the fortress. Then there's a well down there. And then when you get to the end there to look down, it's absolutely beautiful. And I'm not sure what these rock formations here, that might have also been man-made, but they're just kind of carved out now. And the sun hits at certain times and it's turquoise blue. So beautiful. It's not a bad walk down. There's no, I don't think it's too treacherous at all. So we could walk down and you can see it a little bit if you like.
The kids come and jump from the rock down. It's like a natural pool.
They also grew the snails here to get the gland that produces the blue dye for the tzitzi. And they were doing this way back, and you can see there's little holes carved out. They would grow the snails in those holes, literally. And how many snails it took to produce a small amount of dye is like you can't take it into your brain. That's why it was so expensive. And I think, when we look at the tzitzi also, I was thinking about Joseph's coat of many colors. It was probably worth a lot of money, because what it took to buy that dye, to make that coat, that talit probably.